Listen to the Ask Brien radio show on KHS 1220 and 98.1 FM. Well, we're actually getting very close now because in January will be our 8-year anniversary. And actually, our first pilot show was in December of 2016. So we've been doing the show for a while. We've changed a couple bit here and there, but we always go back to the premise of Ask Brien. We always go back to the premise of trying to help people in business. But everybody will always wants to know why Brien is spelled with an E. First of all, most people that have friends named Brien, it's B-R-I-A-N or B-R-Y-A-N. But no, not too many people are B-R-I-E-N unless you're from Ireland and maybe you're the O'Brien family or something along those lines. But we do have a resident expert in E's. Her name is Tracy. Are you there?
I am here, and man, I got to be a resident expert in something, so it might as well be the E's, right? And we are also resident experts in entrepreneurship here on the show, so that's pretty exciting. And
But doesn't have an E in it. But
our most infamous and special E is, of course, our engineer, Jen.
Yay.
Infamous. Wow. Thank you, Tracy.
Yeah, I just kind of
your name is all over the internet.
It's everywhere.
I kind of felt like, maybe I should have used the word like patient, tolerant. I couldn't think of an E that would really match the skill sets that you bring outside of your expertise in engineering because, you tolerate us, but you especially tolerate
Well,
Peter, so.
I do not have to tolerate you. You are a ray of sunshine. Peter, on the other hand, yes. So yes, I'll go ahead and take that accolade.
But that goes completely. Hold on, that goes completely against our whole entire philosophy. Of one of the E's is empathy. So how are we empathizing there?
Yeah, I'm showing empathy to Jen. That's what I'm doing. And if you knew what empathy meant, you would be aware of that.
Tracy has all of the empathy.
Tracy,
I have all the empathy.
You should change your name to have an E in it.
I know I need to, but you know what? I'm getting some pretty exceptional feedback from Jen today, so I'm just going to go with it. And but more so than just us and talking about us, we really need to talk about our experts because if it wasn't for our engineer, which we covered, and our experts, we really actually wouldn't have a show because people probably wouldn't listen to just Peter and me ramble on about ourselves. So, and our expert today
Speak for yourself.
Our expert today is fantastic, and I can't wait for you to meet him. But in the meantime, let's just talk through what it takes to become an expert. So there's a lot of things floating around out there, a lot of people out there calling themselves experts, gurus. The presence of online programs have really, escalated people's use of the word experts. But we have a specific formula, and that is that you need to have a minimum of 10,000 hours in your industry, field, business niche, category. And, oh, my goodness, our experts, they well surpass that. We have experts that have been doing what they've been doing for years and years. And if you need the mathematical breakdown, just because Peter always likes to challenge me to do that, to get to those 10,000 hours, you would need to invest approximately 40 hours a week over the course of 50-ish weeks a year for a total of approximately 5 years. But if you've ever even listened to this show once, you know that we as entrepreneurs spend way more than 40 hours a week in the first few years of running our businesses. And speaking of someone who's been an entrepreneur for almost, I feel like my whole life, I've definitely spent more than 40 hours a week on all the businesses I've started. So that's the math, and those are the experts. And for that, we just get around here, we're pretty enthusiastic about what we do, right, Peter?
And everybody knows how excited
Okay. We get it. We get it.
Not that excited. Okay. But we do get excited about the education. We do get excited about the education component of our show, because if it wasn't for our experts providing us this amazing education, then our entrepreneurs would not be able to shorten their learning curve. And I think that's one of the biggest benefits of the Ask Brien Radio Show, is to really help all of you out there who are striving to really be successful in your business, getting all these tips and all these action-oriented items, everything from mindset to managing your money. We really try to cover all elements of the business and business development and strategy. And I think we do a pretty good job of it. What do you think, Peter?
Well, I alluded to it earlier, and I'm surprised you didn't use the word empathy, but I guess I'll have to be the one that's in charge of empathy, even though I'm also the other big E, which is ego. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was going to say, you're mentioning empathy an awful lot today, so maybe you're just finally, after 8 years, coming around to the term.
I don't know what the word means, but I've heard it before.
You nailed it, yeah.
Well, maybe it's one of those things, if you say it enough times, it will become true.
I want to be a billionaire. I want to be a billionaire. I want to be a billionaire. Hey, I checked my bank.
Well, you know what? Our expert is going to really be able to help focus on mindset today, so you might just be on the right path and didn't even know it.
Well, I think at this point we do need to go over what Tracy's favorite E is. Okay, and it's not any of the ones that we said. It's from
because
that show, right?
It's from Grease Lightning.
What is Grease Lightning?
It's electrifying, and so are we. So we think. Anyway, we call ourselves electrifying, even if no one else does.
Well, some people want us to be electrocuted. All right, so let's go.
Jeez.
Oh, no, that's terrible.
Wow. You're going dark, Peter. What is going on?
It was Halloween a couple weeks ago.
I would think that you were prosecuting attorney the way you're talking.
And you're my first indictment, which has an I, not an E. All right, so with all of that said, we have a guest who may or may not have still be on the line. He may have said, why did I get on the show? What am I doing? I can't believe what this is. But, I don't know. Tracy said I get paid a lot of money to do this show. So, sorry. Anyway, Corey, you're still there.
I'm here. I got to tell you, I tried to bust out, but somebody locked the door, so I guess I'm still here. Good to be with you guys. Hey, Peter. Hey, Tracy. How are you?
Super. Glad to have you on the show. Not everybody knows who you are. So basically, I want to quickly go over what your background is, and then we can get into what you're currently doing. But let's give a little bit of a background, short summary, and tell us who you are.
Well, my name's Corey Anker. I operate under the modicum of executive leadership coach, and I've been making my living for the past 15 years, helping to support, high-performing leaders in various sectors of industry, real estate, finance, people that, hold space for a lot. They tend to be the heads of teams, companies, their family, and they've got multiple commitments, and they're always trying to keep all the plates spinning. And I try to make it a little easier for them.
What did you do before that?
I had, believe it or not, and you're on the radio, I had a 20-year voiceover career doing a lot of commercials for TV, radio, and animation. I did some stuff in the Super Bowl. So, I definitely used my voice to make a living for a while prior to getting into coaching.
Well, that's a pretty good industry to get into. Not everybody can get into that industry. So then you decided to start this company for executive leadership, and what prompted you to get into that?
I've been doing, the quote-unquote work unofficially for a long time, and basically the concentric circles of folks around me in my life, my friends, my family, colleagues, people kept coming to me for my input. And even though coaching and advice are not the same thing, they do have some overlap. And, people were saying to me, listen, you got to do something with this. And what they meant by this was their sense, right or wrong, that they found a modicum of intelligence, some communication skills. And really, I know you guys brought up the idea of empathy already, which by my definition is really simply put the ability to look through somebody else's eyes And I had cultivated that from a young age. So I was able to not tell people what I would do necessarily in that situation, but I would orient myself to what they said and how they were positioned. And then I gave them what I thought was the best input, to help them from where they were. And then when it became clear that this was something I was really going to pursue, I went and I got some really intense training. Not all coaches out there have training. I have, as you guys were talking about, experts and the thousands of hours. I have put all my reps in, and probably it's been a decade and a half. So you can go by the math you already used, and it probably far exceeds 10 or 15,000 hours. So,
who was your first client?
My very first client, and I don't advise this, but in the very beginning, this is just how it was. My very first client, I was living in Gramercy in New York City on the 3rd floor of a very nice building. And on the 12th floor, a neighbor of mine who was working for one of the top financial companies in the city, we were getting into some sort of casual conversations. And then he knew that I was in a training program, and he said, "Would you coach me?" And I said, "All right, let's try to make it a little more formalized." I shared with him some structures, and he was my first official client.
And without getting into too many details, how did you figure out what to charge? Because it's your first client.
Great question. Excellent question. The simple answer to that is never charge more than you can own, and charge what you feel is gonna allow you to show up and bring the value you have. To be, I charge what will have me show up and be able to bring my A game. And also, it should be, you got to put some skin in the game. So, I want a client to be not overtly uncomfortable, but if it's too easy to pony that up, you may not lean in and bring your A game. So, but there's a diverse range of rates across the field. People on the low end, you could probably find somebody for I don't know. And listen, there's also, I will on occasion do pro bono on purpose if I believe in an ascending leader who just hasn't, whose results haven't caught up with their effort yet. But people charge $50 an hour, $100 an hour. When I was training, we related to what we called the low end professional rate as $125 an hour. And then, there are people in the industry that get thousands upon thousands of dollars an hour, or, $50,000 a day, $100,000 a day. So there's a real diverse range of experience out there.
So first of all, in a typical day with a client, what are you typically doing for that client? And maybe it's not a day, maybe it's a weekly, maybe it's I don't know how it works. Do you call them once a week? How does that whole process work?
Yes. Well, first of all, this is going to be semantics, but it's not that I don't do anything for the client, but I really do things with the client. Because if you imagine it in the physical realm, if we were in the gym and I was a personal trainer, if I lifted all the weight, the client wouldn't get the result. So it's really important that I'm there in partnership with them, supporting them, kind of reading the math in the shotgun position, but they're behind the steering wheel. They're deciding where we go. So, we jump in a conversation, we get connected for a couple minutes. They tell me the flavor of the day, what's been going on, where they're at. If it's brand new, a relationship, I'm asking them what they want to accomplish in the session. If we've been at it a while, they know that question's coming, so they'll volunteer it. Because, you need a goal, whether it's in the macro arc of life or the micro arc of a single conversation. Coaching is all about figuring out the future point you want to arrive at, and then bridging the gap between where you are and where you're going. It's a lot less relevant how you got where you are. Not irrelevant, but a lot of times people want to give me a lot of backstory, but sometimes it's just more effective to start off saying, "Hey, here's where I am. Here's what I want to get to," and then we figure out the motivation behind it. Also, just to clarify it, and then we're off to the races. And what am I doing with them? I'm helping them clarify their goals. I'm helping keep them accountable so that they're advancing towards their goals. A lot of very intelligent people find themselves, quote unquote, going dumb, and they get confused. Fear looks like a lot of different things at a lot of different times. It's not always hiding under your blanket from the boogeyman. Sometimes people just get busy or distracted or they change their mind. And so keeping a client on the track that together we built is a fundamental aspect of the work too.
Okay, well, first of all, you mentioned flavor of the day, and that is strawberry. So I want you to know flavor of the day is strawberry.
Nice.
Okay. Now,
You're a strawberry guy. Tracy, what's your favorite flavor?
I am all about chocolate. Dark chocolate,
nice.
milk chocolate, chocolate with anything in it. Just chocolate. Yep, that's me.
Nice. If
now
I
we
was
have to ask
plain
Jen.
Jane, I could say vanilla, and we'd make up Neapolitan.
Jen?
But I'm a bit more of a pistachio guy myself, I think. So.
Oh, well, that's green for money. We'll take that.
I like it. And a few nuts, because sometimes life's crazy.
Jen, what is your favorite flavor?
Rocky Road.
Rocky Road?
Yes.
So
but I'm with Tracy. Anything
you have a little
chocolate.
Tracy in you.
Yeah. Anything chocolate. Certainly not fruit. The fruit has no business in my ice cream. But yeah, there's a time and place for fruit.
No, but I will take an Oreo in any flavor.
Oh,
ice cream.
yes.
So if you're gonna put
Nice.
if you're gonna put an Oreo in it, you can make it strawberry, vanilla, whatever with Oreo.
Strawberry
I don't know how
Oreo.
that would taste. Strawberry Oreo.
Mm-hmm.
I think that went a little bit too far. All right. Now, Corey, the next question is, what has been your biggest challenge in your business?
The biggest challenge that I face is when I see a person who knows that they want more than they currently have. And to be fair, I'm not out there forcing change on people. If you are happy where you are and you don't want to change a damn thing, more power to you. But people tap me on the shoulder and they hire me because they want change. They want growth. They want progress. And nothing is harder than watching somebody who is talented, confident, intelligent, even witty, and they're clear and they see it and they want it and they begin the climb and their legs start to get tired and they quit on themselves. There is nothing more heartbreaking than watching somebody quit on themselves. And you cannot make, the degree of impact and change that I can provide with a client is directly proportional to what they allow. I cannot, nor would I want to, but I can't force change on anybody. It's really up to the client to be open and to seek it out. So it's heartbreaking to just watch somebody like on their way and then just be like, yeah, my legs are tired. I'm sitting down now. And it happens, but part of the deal.
What is the difference between what you're performing in these consulting versus like a psychologist?
Well, you said consulting, so that's actually a third modality, right? We've got coaching, we've got consulting, and then we've got, let's call it therapy. So let's compare coaching to therapy, because I think that was the crux of what you were asking me. Therapy tends to be a healing modality. It tends to exist in a past to present timeline because most people don't seek out therapists because everything's going great, right? Whether it's, emotional stuff or whether it's a physical therapist. Maybe, you stepped off a ladder and you hurt your ankle or something, or you have an injury from the war, decades ago. It's something that happened. You find yourself in the impact of that injury that's happening for the first time or is re-aggravated, and then you go and you heal. So you got to talk about what happened back then, how you found yourself where you are, and then, it's like a healing. Coaching is a lot more like climbing a mountain than it is getting out of a hole or healing. It's in a present to future-based space, and the client is related to as fully capable. I relate to my client as capable. I'm not putting them on my back and carrying them. In therapy, the therapist gets to say, hey, it's just like another professional, like a lawyer or a doctor. They're an expert in the content. They say, hey, I've seen this before and I know what you need. And they may ask questions like, how does that make you feel? Of course, there's always input and partnership, but it's a little bit different. I think there's a different form of expertise in therapy. And again, healing modality, past to present versus present to future.
Well,
does that sufficiently answer the question?
Yes, and unfortunately, we have to take a break. You're listening to the Ask Brien radio show on KHS 1220 and 98.1 FM. We'll be right back.
Sweet salty.
Welcome back. You're listening to the Ask Brien Radio Show on KHS 1220 in 98.1 FM. Like no other station in the world. That's what we are. Like no other station in the world. Mm-hmm. Anyway, we're still talking to our guest Corey, but now we're pivoting to Tracy. Go ahead.
Well, I'm going to take the pivot with a capital P, and I'm going to actually do some coaching scenarios, because I know that there are a lot of listeners out there who are struggling right now with growing, scaling their businesses, marketing, all kinds of things that they'd love to get some on-the-spot coaching insights on. So if you're up for it, Corey, let's do some role-playing scenarios. How about that?
Of course. Let's do it.
Okay. So I am a solopreneur, and I've been running my business. This is the scenario. This is not me literally. But so I'm a solopreneur. I've been running my business for 3 years. I have a part-time virtual assistant, but the work has just really gotten to be too much for me and the VA, and I really need to scale and add to my team. But I have a lot of fear around it because I've always just kind of been a one-person show. What are some of the tips, or what are some of the things that you would help me do to overcome my fear to adding to my team, but also to how do I figure out how to afford it?
Yeah, great question. First of all, congratulations on getting to a point in your business where you actually feel like you absolutely have to expand. Not all businesses make it that far. So that's worthy of celebrating. Look, this is a very, very common choke point in the growth arc of any business. I don't know if you're a pizza fan, but in Brooklyn, one of the best pizza places probably in the world is a place called DeFara Pizza. And Dom DeFara, who's no longer with us, his son now is making the pizza. He was really well known for creating a certain amount of dough at the beginning of the day, and he would just make pizzas all himself by hand until the dough ran out. And when it was done, and you'd have to come back the next day. And the guy made every single pie himself because he knew, like all good business people who start businesses, that he could trust himself the most, that nobody would make a pie better than him. But that's the problem. You can't scale when your hands are the only hands in the pie. So most business owners, they're very worried. Nobody's going to do it as good as I do. Nobody's going to work as late or as hard or as dedicated. Nobody knows the recipe as well as I do. And so it's a very, very frightening growth point. And the simple answer is it's really time to practice trust. And the way you practice, what makes practicing trust easier is getting a sufficient level of support. It's making sure that the training is done, hire the best people that you can afford, that are, appropriate for whatever sector of business that you're in. I don't know if you're familiar with a book named From Good to Great by Jim Collins, but it's an incredible book about what makes, companies succeed. And one of the most important things he said was get the people on the bus. Make sure you have the right people around you, people that are committed, people that are coachable, people that, their wants and, will align as close to your own as possible. Get supported, train people, and slowly, and look, you gotta leap before the net appears. If you wait until everything is perfectly comfortable to jump, you will probably, not only will you wait too long, you may wait forever. So it's really important to just, go for it. Build the instrument and just leverage it. So I would start with that.
Yeah, I love that. And I think, too, just like if you could talk a little bit about a money mindset just in general, because I know everybody has a little bit of a different money story. And when it comes to what you bring into your business as an entrepreneur, I know that can make a big difference in terms of how you treat money, how you manage money, and 100%. How you invest money. So just in general, what would you talk through a client in terms of identifying their money story and managing their money story?
Great question. And absolutely true. We human beings are just absolutely bananas when it comes to money. Some people can't save $1 to save their life. Other people won't spend an extra 50 cents, on adding extra cheese to a sandwich and everything in between. Look, at the end of the day, you want an empowered relationship around money. A lot of people have a disempowered relationship around money based on how it was when they were young. Some people make money, they equate it to their self-esteem or security or whatever. And there's a practical value to money, right? It's so easy to quantify and to count. So you can say to me, well, Corey, I have this in the bank and these are my bills. So I can't afford that. I don't have money. But there's a very different situation. There's a very different between I don't have money today and I just don't have money. Money can always be made. Money, the healthiest, most empowered relationship to money is almost like air. You don't think about it. It's there. And if you want more, you can take another breath. Money can always be made. So that's not to say that you should, be irresponsible and just run out and spend every penny in your account because you'll make more. But it does mean that you shouldn't allow money to be the thing that gets between you and what it is that you want as an individual, as a business owner. You can go raise money. There's a lot so it's really about crafting a relationship to money that will support you.
Yes, I love that. And it is, you're right, it's such a personal thing with everybody in terms of how they address it and if they're risk adverse or if they're willing to take risks to invest to scale. And so that leads me to my next question in 60 seconds or less. When is a good time for business to invest money, let's say, in lead generation?
I would say it's kind of like if you had a parachute on your back or like a hang glider or whatever, and you were going to leap off a cliff and fly, when would you jump? And the answer is you wouldn't jump 50 yards before the edge. You jump when it made sense because of where you were and where you were going to jump into the ether, right? So it's probably I would say 3 to 6 months before you're really right there. That's the time to kind of invest those dollars and come out as a launch and a blast. Because really that ad spend is just about amplifying your message. So once it's clear and you have full belief in it, because remember, everything is about belief. It's magnetizing. So you've got to believe fully in what you do. You've got to hone your message and you've got to know how that you're going to deliver it. And then when you're really ready for that expansion, that's the time to, hire the marketing person, go put ad spend on social and launch out then. That's what I would say.
Yeah, and I think too, just really quickly before the break, a point to carry on from that is that whatever you're doing in your business right now, you're going to feel and experience, or whatever you're not doing in your business right now, you're going to feel or experience in 90 days. So look today at where you are in your business, what you were doing 90 days ago, and then forecast where you want to be 90 days from now. Peter?
And build and build a plan. Remember, the pain of discipline pales in comparison to the pain of regret. So whatever you do, don't stay inactive too long. Action's your friend.
Thank you very much. We're going to be taking a break for our sponsor. You're listening to the Ask Brien radio show on KHCS 1220 AM and 98.1 FM.
And the Ask Brien show wants to say thank you to our sponsor, LegalSteps.com. It's LegalStepz.com. These courses really make it easy for you if you are an up-and-coming entrepreneur. You've got this wonderful idea. You just don't know where to begin. What's the first step? I would advise not to just start Googling out of nowhere. You want to really know that you're with somebody who can guide you along the way and that you're getting the right information that you need. And you can find that at Legal Steps. The courses are very affordable. They're under $150 each. And in terms of, obviously everybody's tight in the wallet right now and things are tough out there. But if you're trying to get your business off the ground, don't let something like $150 get in your way. Make that purchase and get started at LegalSteps.com. Of the courses that you can take, there's register a trademark, form an S corporation, form an LLC. I took one of these courses a little while ago, and it was really simple. I loved that I could work at my own pace. That was huge for me. I'm sure it's a big deal for you as well. You're busy. You've got other things that you've got to get to, so you can't really work on someone else's schedule. You need something that works with what you can do with your schedule. So I was able to, in less than 2 hours, take the course, pause, rewind, take notes. I loved that I could see what my legal expert was looking at and kind of like mirror that. So I knew that I was answering the questions the right way, because sometimes I'm sure you would understand that some of this legalese can get a little tricky. So you want to make sure that you're answering the questions the right way and filling out the forms properly. If you get to the point where you're stuck and you're frustrated and you don't know what you're doing, the experts at Legal Steps will just do it for you. They'll take your hand and walk you through the rest of it, and you'll be at the finish line before you know it. These experts, by the way, have over 30 years experience. So you are working with people who know what they're doing. You are in great hands. Go to legalsteps.com, LEGALSTEPZ, that's with a Z.com.
Well, thank you, Jen.
You're welcome.
And thank you to Legal Steps. All right. You're listening to the Ask Brien radio show on KHS 1220 and 98.1 FM. And we are back with our guests.
We are back. So, Corey, what are some of the things that you're seeing? You don't have to, break any anonymity with your clients, but what are maybe some of the top 3 challenges that you're seeing kind of show up in session after session that you're paying attention to that you would consider to be patterns of challenges that entrepreneurs are facing right now, either in today's economic landscape or content creation landscape or growing a business? Like, what are some of the things that you feel like are repeatedly showing up in some of your sessions that your entrepreneurs are challenged with?
Yeah, great. So, we spoke a little bit about it, right? Friction points, right? So scale and getting to that next gear. Performance on a team, the interpersonal communication and the formation of relationships, integrity, trust. People always like pulling their weight. A lot of times, these bigger companies will bring on, some rock stars onto a new team, and they're reliable for certain value and certain skills, but they may it can sometimes disrupt the vibe of the team, or they're not getting the maximum performance in other ways. And so it's really, really important for the sake of efficiency and harmony to get everybody on the same page and sort of knowing their role and working. It's very similar to sports. You can have too many superstars on a team, and even if you only have one, you still have to, the way you run plays through things, just the flow of the organization. So that's what I see a lot. I see in growth and scale, and in performance, and in unity and harmony within a larger group. And I work a lot of times also with family businesses. So you can imagine how complex that gets when you're wearing the hat of brother or father or son or daughter or mother or whatever, and also colleague or CEO to VP or whatever. So that comes up a lot too.
Oh, yeah. I can imagine, too, that you're also dealing not only just with the dynamics of family relationships in a family business, but the idea of succession, too. I mean, obviously, Succession was one of the biggest hits on HBO and the award-winning TV series. And not all of us can have the lucrative fortune that particular family was based on. But in general, I do think having a succession plan and establishing a succession plan is so important in any business, but a family business especially. Do you have any insight in terms of how people can navigate that?
Yeah, I mean, and by the way, that was an amazing show, and they had all that wealth, and even because of it, let alone in spite of it, they had plenty of dramatic issues.
No, yeah, they definitely had. They did not have a lot of empathy in that family.
Honestly, for the sake of this conversation, because we're limited on time. Obviously, this is a subject that there's a lot of meat on this bone, so to speak. I would just say it's really about as much transparency, open communication, as possible. If everybody's on the same page, and this doesn't mean that everybody's getting an equal cut. Partnership doesn't have to be 50-50, but it's just the idea that everybody's voice is heard, needs are, accounted for to the extent they can be, because then it's an empowered plan. Then the handoff, the transition is a lot more empowered. And it just cuts down on misunderstanding. You keep too many things under the table and you have too many different kinds of conversations, things get triangulated. So that's not to say that there aren't appropriate conversations that have to happen behind closed doors, but at some point you got to bring everybody together in the same conversation and let everyone be heard, and then everybody's in agreement and you move forward together. So that's what I would say in simplest terms.
And, and I think, too, and again, we have 60 seconds, so I think we can come back after the break and talk through this a little bit more, but it's also about setting up systems. So whether it's a family-owned business or you're just running a business and scaling a team, it's so important to focus on your systems so that the business is not so incredibly founder-dependent versus just
Absolutely.
being able to operate on its own. So that's something that I think people don't talk about enough, and we could dig into a little bit more after the break. But there's, especially if you want to sell your business, right? Like you have to, as a founder or a person who's running the business, you've got to be able to step away and let your team take over.
Of course. And, there's always a transition, right, where that owner will stay on for a little while. But you're right. I mean, you want that amount of time to be relatively short. So.
And I think that's such a hard thing as a founder. If you've started as a solopreneur and you've transitioned like we very first started talking about earlier, and then you built out your team, but it's still yours, right? And so it's very hard to kind of get out of that day-to-day operation. So, Peter?
Well, if there's enough zeros, it makes it easier.
Oh, that's a good point. Yes.
Well, thank you very much. We're going to be taking a quick break. You're listening to the Ask Brien radio show on KHS 1220 and 98.1 FM. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're listening to the Ask Brien radio show on KHS 1220 and 98.1 FM. Well, we're back. Tracy, you had some information you wanted to collect from our guest, Corey.
Yeah, well, Corey, thank you for indulging me in all the scenarios of entrepreneur challenges. And I know there's so many more that we could have been able to delve into if we had more time. So our listeners, I'm sure, would love to learn more about you, how to get in touch with you, to be able to feel and experience what it would be like to work with you. So what is the best way for anyone to touch base with you after the show?
Well, if you're listening right now and you want to get in touch with me, and by the way, feel free to, just shoot me an email. I'm more than happy. You can ask me a question and I will respond. I answer all my emails, and I'm more than happy to give my 2 cents or $1.50 on any issue you're up against. And that would be Corey@Ankerline.com. It's Corey @Ankerline, ANKERLINE.com.
And of course, we will have that along with all the other resources and key takeaways in the show notes for the podcast. And if you didn't know, whether this is your first time listening, yes, this show, this live fantastic radio show is repurposed as a podcast for you to go back and refer to or share with your friends. And you can find it wherever you listen to your favorite podcast, Apple, Spotify, iHeart, all of the places. But be sure to search for the Ask Brien podcast. That's AskBrien, the podcast.
Well, thank you, Tracy. So, Corey, my question to you is, who is the most interesting client you had and why?
Most interesting client I have ever had. Well, I'll tell you, there's a leader who was working for a Fortune 500 company, and they had gone from being a very high performer to actually having some real significant stumbling blocks. And to keep a very long story short, I ended up staying. They had a very large home, and I ended up staying with them in their home for almost 2 weeks. And though we weren't coaching 24/7 around the clock, I created a very loose style. So we would have some formal conversations, and then we'd have meals together. We would take walks. And so there was a less formalized process But it was a really important time for this person, and it was a very interesting time as a professional for me. So.
Okay, and where are you going from here? What's your goal? Where do you see yourself in 2 years?
I would say that 2025 is going to be largely about speaking. Coaching is so reflective in its nature, and it's directive too, but it's largely reflective. And I have, my desire is always to educate, inspire, entertain, introduce, and empower people. And I write a lot of content, and I want to get out there to larger audiences and really be able to speak and provide solid content. So that's what's coming next for me. And a book will be coming by the end of 25.
And as for before we get to the book, the first part, how do you envision obtaining those goals?
How do I envision getting the speaking gig?
Yeah.
There's a number of sources. I have colleagues that have already gone before me, and they've made connections. I just did a keynote in New York last month, and I just got the edit, so I now have a nice 20-minute video, and that's something that I can go market. It came out great. I'm really happy about it. It was on the 4 essential questions to 10x your life and business. So talked about integrity, talked about relationships, and a couple other things. And so I'll market that. And then, getting out on the socials, word of mouth. I show up with the being of coach wherever I go. I'm not obviously in coaching conversations on the line at Starbucks, but when you're really satisfied with your existence and you carry yourself with a certain energy and you're able to communicate and you're able to do what I call active listening, you engage with people. And in my experience, things always lead, and people know people know people. So I have no doubt 25 is going to be a huge year.
So we have about a minute to a minute and a half left, and I'm going to ask a very broad question, but so you'll have some leeway here, and that is, how do you build a successful team?
How do you build a successful team? It's a meaty question. It is general, but it's really, really important.
Very broad.
I think, honestly, it's really about awareness and clarity. You have to know your goals. You have to know what your business is really, truly about, not just the pizza. It's that I talked about earlier. It's like maybe that's about community. Maybe that's about, you really have to understand what your mission is, and you really just want to get those right people on the bus. So know what you're about, know what your mission is. And then when you're interviewing people, make sure that, their skills and desires are aligned with yours, and really make sure that they're coachable. Because again, you were there first. So you're probably going to have a great expertise that you're going to want to pass along. So you want people that are leaders in their own right, but that are also malleable and can be molded into what you're looking for. And always inspire. Always be inspiring and be transparent. Let the team have some degree of ownership, even if it's not actual stock options. Really, create a culture and an environment where there is buy-in from that team. You'll be great. You'll be thankful for that later.
Well, thank you very much, Corey. Unfortunately,
thank you.
We're kind of at the end here. You're listening to the Ask Brien radio show on KHS 1220 and 98.1 FM. Thank you, Corey. Thank you, Tracy. Over and out.